classical, foundation, fundamental, and the process is going to get you the best product possible. Okay, so when you develop a product, or you're thinking about developing a product, you got to think about your market. You got to think about how available this product is in your marketplace. And the first thing we look for is products that don't exist in our marketplace. And we knew that this product would be highly successful because it was successful in New York City. Okay, and there are people waiting online for 3 hours in New York City. So we knew if we could figure it out, it would be successful.
Welcome to the Informed Choice Podcast, where holistic healing meets practical truth. I'm Annie, the Naija Goddess, and this is where we simplify holistic wellness so you can stop guessing and start healing. Today's guest is a master of craft and discipline in the world of pastry. Sadruddin Abdullah is a 2-time national bread and pastry champion, a former professor at Johnson & Wales, and the co-founder of Dessert Specialist, the Charlotte-based home of the famous Cronut. His career spans decades, but what sets him apart is not simply the accolades or the popularity of his creations. It's his commitment to process. He has built a reputation on respecting time, honoring tradition, and refusing shortcuts. Doughs are given days to develop, sauces are made from scratch, and every detail is carried out with precision and perfection, if I might add. Our conversation today centers on the theme of process over flash. We will explore what it takes to achieve mastery, why patience is the most overlooked ingredient in both baking and life, and how discipline leads to results that endure long after trends fade. It is an honor to welcome to the podcast my mentor, the master pastry chef, Sadruddin Abdullah. Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing good, my sister. I'm doing good. It's my honor. And thank you for having me.
I'm so over the moon. Y'all don't even understand how I'm so excited and honored that he's here. So before I jump into all my questions, because there's so much to say about your career and your life and everything you've done. Give the people a little bit more about you and how you fell into the love of pastry.
Well, my love of pastry started over 70 years ago, as I would watch my grandmother make chocolate cakes and the original banana pudding for Christmas and Thanksgiving and the traditional holidays. I remember many holidays where I was too short to even see over the tables. I was on the table like this, looking up at my grandmother, waiting for her to finish with the bowl of chocolate so she could give the bowl to me and my cousin so we could take our fingers and rub our fingers in the bowl and lick the bowl. Okay, so this is how I grew up. My grandmother, she worked at it as a nurse's aide in an emergency room at Fordham Hospital in the Bronx. And she worked there for over 30 years, and she came home every night and cooked us dinner. The staple of that dinner was biscuits. She made us hot biscuits every night, in addition to whatever else she made. And my cousin and I, in the morning for breakfast, we would get up, take those biscuits, and take some water and brush the biscuits with water with our hands and put them in the oven. And then we cook some eggs and we put some syrup on the biscuits. And, we'd have a small cup of Maxwell House coffee. And that was our breakfast every day. But my grandmother, no matter how hard she worked in that emergency room, she came home every night and fixed us dinner, and we sat down and ate dinner as a family. And we always had something fresh baked. But that was the extent of it as a child. I just ate good, okay, because of my grandmother. I didn't start getting into baking as a profession until I was 43 years old. I met a guy in Anchorage, Alaska. I met a chef in Anchorage, Alaska. His name was Frenchie. He's a French guy. And he was doing sugar competitions. Okay, so there's a craft called sugar art where you can blow sugar, pour sugar, pull sugar, make flowers, blow people, and this is generally used for centerpieces. And then you would put your food around the centerpiece. So he would make the components of whatever his competition piece was in Anchorage, and then he would pack it all up, and he'd go do his competition. And I saw that, and I was just like blown away. I was totally amazed. And so I said, Frenchie, I want to learn how to do this. And so that's where I started. We started hanging out, and whenever he had a competition, I would help him, with his prep. And through that experience, I became proficient in blowing, pulling, and pouring sugar and doing sugar centerpieces. So my handle, my social media handle is Sugarman. Okay, and that's where Sugarman comes from. Because before I ever baked a cake or a cookie, I was doing full blown and poured sugar centerpieces. So we worked together, and Frenchie saw something in me, so he encouraged me to get a job in the bakery. So my first job was in the Captain Cook Hotel in Anchorage, Alaska, and this was a scratch bakery in a very nice hotel. The pastry chef there, he was a classical guy, and he did things the right way.
Classical French.
Classical French. But there was, the American influence and other, international influences was there. But the fundamentals and the foundations was classical French. One of the things, my first day in the kitchen is there was a lesson learned that I always keep with me, and I've never forgotten it. So one of the first things you do when you go into a kitchen is, you're checking the kitchen out, you're looking at where things are, because you don't know where the sugar is, you don't know where the milk is, etc. So the chef asked me to go into the kitchen. I mean, go into the cooler and get a gallon of milk. Okay, so I go in there and I couldn't find it. So he took me in the kitchen in the cooler, and he gave me like a little tour. The milk is here, the butter's here, etc. Okay, he said rule number 1: put it back where you got it.
Hello.
So we leave out of the cooler. So we're done with the milk. So of course I didn't put it back. I just put the milk. I just put the milk at the most seemingly convenient place for me. All right. So the next day, chef needed the milk. I'm in the kitchen doing whatever it is I was doing, and he's in there. He wasn't in there but 2 or 3 minutes. He came out. He said, Sadruddin, what did you do with the milk? I said, I put it in the cooler. He said, come here. So we went in the cooler. We walked over to the spot where the milk should have been. He said, the milk, you got it from this spot. And I remember him pointing to the spot. He said, you got it from this spot. I'm busy. I don't have time to run around the cooler looking for milk that you didn't take time to put back where you got it. So I don't want to have to tell you this anymore. You put stuff back where you got it. So that was my first lesson in the professional kitchen. And little did I know how important that lesson was. But as my career progressed, I realized that he did me a big favor by being stern and sticking to the guns. So after that, I worked in that hotel for a while. I loved pastry, and he was just an amazing chef. So I worked there for a couple of years, and then Frenchie says to me, "Well, so why don't you go to culinary school?" So I said, "Okay, well, if you think that that's what I should do." So at the University of Alaska, they have a culinary arts program. Now I've worked at Johnson and Wales. I studied at Johnson and Wales. I got a culinary arts degree from Johnson and Wales. I got an associate's in baking and pastry from Johnson and Wales. I got a bachelor's degree in pastry from Johnson and Wales, and I got a master's degree in marketing and finance from Johnson and Wales. And you know, this little school in Anchorage, Alaska, in my opinion,
Uh-oh.
is is high up in terms of culinary education, and this is why I say that. If you go to CIA or Johnson and Wales or most culinary institutions, pastry, you get maybe out of a 2-year degree, you might get a week of pastry in your freshman year and a week of pastry in your sophomore year.
Yeah.
At the University of Alaska, there was 4 days in the school week. Monday and Tuesday, you're in the bakery. Wednesday and Thursday, you're in the kitchen. Pastry, there was no distinction between pastry and culinary arts. So when you graduate from that school as a pastry student, you have knife skills, you know how to tourner, you know how to chiffonade, you know how to julienne as a pastry student. And this is a very, very classical approach to food. But what made this program even more dynamic is the food that was produced fed the university population. They had a cafeteria, and as a sophomore, on your 2 days in the kitchen on the savory side, you had breakfast cookery. You had to set up the hotline, for lunch, whatever was on the menu. And they had a bakery that the bakery students produced product for that was sold to the university population. And it was just amazing. But this is what really took this program to the next level. They had a fine dining restaurant that did 70 lunch reservations a day.
Wow.
A day. Paying customers.
Hello. Wow.
Paying customers. So customers have reservations, they come in, we learned how to wait on the customers and deliver the food to the customers. We had to be, knowledgeable and conversant in the menu because as these customers were paying, they were asking questions just like you would do in any restaurant. And so we got that dining room experience as culinary students, as well as the experience for preparing and producing and delivering the food to those customers. So you had a bakery, you had a cafeteria, and you had a fine dining restaurant, all run by the students. There is not a culinary school in the United States that I'm aware of that has a program like that. So anyway, I went there. That was my first experience of culinary education. I loved the school. The school was very supportive of your individual ambitions in terms of learning. And based on my experience with Frenchie, I had, other experiences that people just coming into the program didn't have. So if I wanted to do chocolate work or sugar work or more advanced pastries, and I really had a good time, with the fine dining restaurant in terms of doing the desserts, they supported me. They let me do anything that I wanted to do. So fast forward, when I was getting ready to graduate, the pastry chef in the program moved. And they weren't able to find anyone to come and take that position. So
This is that in Alaska or
this is in Alaska.
Okay.
This is at the culinary school in Alaska. Okay. And so one day the director of the program called me into his office and he said, Sadruddin, would you be interested in being a pastry chef next year? And I was like, of course. I didn't know what else to say. I wasn't going to say no, but that's, my heart was beating, my mind was going, and I was just floored and honored, okay, and excited. So he came in, a couple of days after that, and we were talking about the curriculum and what had to be done and what the expectations was. And so the staff there wore the tall chef hats. And so I said, Tim, now mind you, I haven't even graduated yet. Okay. I'm getting ready to graduate. So I said, Tim, do I have to wear the chef hat? And he looked at me and said, you're a chef now. Yes, you do have to wear the chef hat. I said, Tim, I'm not a chef. I haven't even graduated yet. But this was my humility speaking. Okay. And this was my desire and passion, because I wanted to do a great job. And now I'm going to shift roles from being a student with other students who I came through the program with, and now I'm going to deliver the curriculum. So all of those things were going through my head, and I just remember that day, and he looked at me and said, yes, you're a chef now. And he had to say that to me, because even if I was a chef and I knew that I wasn't, I had to walk like a chef and act like a chef the best I can in order to teach. So I did that. I worked there as an adjunct professor for 1 year. That was the agreement. I did that for 1 year, and I was in then. After that, I was in. I was all in. I was swimming in pastry. I loved it. So I did some research on going to another culinary school, a more advanced culinary school. And the two top schools in the country still today were Culinary Institute of America and Johnson and Wales. Culinary Institute of America is in Hyde Park, New York.
And Greystone, my alma mater.
Yeah, they have and California Greystone campus, and Johnson and Wales had several campuses. They had a Norfolk campus. They had a campus in Rhode Island. They had a couple of campuses, and so we did the research, and we decided, we meaning my wife and I. At this time, I had 6 children, teenagers, and we decided to move the family to Providence, Rhode Island, so that my wife and I could go study at Johnson and Wales. But for me at this point, I knew I wanted to teach. Okay? Because one of the things I learned at Johnson and Wales is the best teachers are good students. Because as you're teaching, the information is being reinforced. You're learning more about the information because all students are different. So you can't look at the information, through a straight lens. You have to be able to take that information and deliver it to each student in a way that they will be able to integrate that information and take it, and get on the road to making food with excellence and passion. And so that was my first, experience in teaching. Got to Providence, Rhode Island. One of the amazing things about Johnson and Wales and Providence, Rhode Island is it's right there on the East Coast, next to New York and Boston, some of the most dynamic food areas in the country. Big in Johnson and Wales curriculum is food competitions. They had competitions where the staff would compete against the staff of other culinary schools. There was staff and student teams where we would make stuff at the school, okay, ride down to New York City at the Jacob Javits Center, set everything up, and present our food and compete, against the other culinary programs. So as 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 we did those competitions, I got the opportunity to work with some of the greatest chefs on the planet. Johnston, this is something that a lot of people don't know about culinary schools. In Johnson and Wales, you do not have to have a college degree to teach culinary arts. In North Carolina and other states, because of the college accreditation program, you have to have a college degree. So at Johnson and Wales, you've got chefs from Germany, you've got chefs from Spain, you've got chefs from Italy, you got chefs from all over the world. You walk down the halls in Johnson and Wales and you're sitting in the classroom and they're speaking all the classical languages on the planet. Okay? And students would come up to me and say, "So, Dean, how do you do this? I can't understand what they're saying." You don't have to understand what they're saying. Just watch their hands. That's all you have to do. So that was the experience there at Johnson and Wales. So there was this one chef named Jean-Luc Durand, Swiss guy, and he was the chocolate and sugar artist. So when my wife and I and the family arrived in Providence, Rhode Island, we got settled in the hotel. We said, okay, well, let's go check out the campus. So we're walking through the buildings, and we walked through one of the buildings, and there was a classroom, and this Chef Jean-Luc Durand was in there teaching chocolate. This was a Friday, teaching chocolate to a group of students. So I looked in there. I said, "Oh." So I opened up the door and, stood by the door, and the chef came up to me and said, "Can I help you?" I said, "Yes, chef. What's going on here? I just arrived, from Alaska, and, I'm just my first day on the campus, and I'm just checking things out." He said, I asked him, "Is it possible for me to come in and work?" He said, "Listen, these students are at the end of their 2 years. So what I do is every Friday, I come in for my students that are graduating and allow them. Chocolate and sugar is the last class in the pastry program." So he said what he does is he comes in and he allows his students to come in and do extra work. And he works with them. He said, "So you haven't even registered, so I can't allow you in." I said, "But chef, I know how to do sugar. I know how to do chocolate. Chocolate, not so much, but I'm a fair sugar artist. And I did my best to show myself." So he said, "Okay, I'm gonna see what you can do." And he let me come in. He gave me an apron and a hat on the spot, and he let me come in. And I got in there, and I was there for 4 years. I never missed a Friday in 4 years. So the class is the year is 9 months, so that's 36 classes. Okay, so that's 36 classes times 4. Okay, so that's like 114 extra classes, 112, 114, whatever it is, extra classes that I got with this chef just coming in on Fridays, in addition to the curriculum. This is the kind of institution Johnson and Wales is. It was then, and it's even more and more so today. So anyway,
That speaks to your talent and artistry, though, while you're allowed to do all these things because they saw it in you.
exactly. The opportunity is there. The opportunity is there. The institution is there. Some students took advantage of it. Some did. We all paid the same money.
That's right.
We all paid the same money. And I wasn't going to do nothing else on Friday but be there, and the benefit that I gained from just that just enhanced my passion, my love, my understanding of the process and why things were done the way they were, way they are. And I can't even say enough about, the benefit of just that part of the curriculum. While there, that's where we did the bread and pastry championships, and there was competitions constantly. And so,
Tell me about your first win.
well, the first win didn't come for a while. The first win didn't come for a while. I remember, I'm gonna tell you about my most dramatic loss, which was more important. It was in the wintertime. Okay, so sugar is brittle. Okay, so it doesn't like cold. I built this centerpiece. Okay, it must have been about 4 feet. And what I did was we packed it in a box, packed it on styrofoam, because the roads in New York from Rhode Island to Boston, they're bumpy,
Potholes.
everything. So you have to pack it really, really, as best you can. And, it's a crapshoot if your piece is going to make it, because it's wintertime and it was cold this night. And we loaded up on the truck, hit the road. We had a car in the front, and everybody behind us. There's three or four vehicles. When the front car would radio back to the other cars and tell us where the potholes were, etc. So we could avoid the potholes. The car was in, hit a pothole, and all I could hear is, and my piece just shattered and fell to pieces. The good thing was it was in a box, so I had all the pieces.
Oh my gosh.
This was a team competition. So everyone had a piece that they had to do in order to get all of the points. So all of the chefs on our team, they put their pieces up, and this is the God's truth. They all came, and we took all of my pieces, laid them out, and glued them all back together, piece by piece. The piece was ugly, but I had a centerpiece. I had a centerpiece. That is where I gained such a warm and phenomenal sense of teamwork. Because there's no I in team. So what? Your piece was intact. We're going to lose if I don't have a piece. And everybody came to the rescue, and literally we put that piece, and how we did it, we took some sugar, melted sugar, and we dipped the two pieces together. We laid them up like a puzzle, and we took some melted sugar and put them back together, and let the sugar get cold, and then they fuse together, and we put the whole piece back together, and was able to put a piece on the table. And that's called teamwork. So we did a lot of competitions. So then came time for the National Bread and Pastry Championships. This is a team competition, and we competed against 12 of the top pastry teams in the country. It was a bread baker and a pastry chef. The bread baker had to make a bread centerpiece. This is their piece had to be made out of what's called dead dough, meaning it didn't have yeast. If the dough has yeast, it's not able to support the weight of a large centerpiece. One of the chefs at the school developed this concept called dead dough, where he would make the bread, color it, cut the pieces out, design the centerpiece, cut the pieces out, and put it together with sugar, hot sugar, but it didn't have yeast in it, so it was hard. Okay, so, and then it had to make an array of baguettes and viennoiserie, which is French pastries made with laminated dough. And then I had to make a sugar and chocolate centerpieces, 2 cakes, and 12 pastries. First thing you had to do is you had to do a drawing, a cross-sectional diagram of the cake. And this is what the judge was going to look at when the judge looked at your cake, to make sure that you built your cake consistent with the drawing. And I also had to do the centerpiece, and then I had to put 1 cake and 12 centerpieces, 12 plated desserts on the centerpiece, and then present that to the judges. The competition was the easiest part. We literally trained for a whole year.
Wow.
On the weekends.
Wow.
The competition was 2 days. So we set up a kitchen at Johnson & Wells according to the way the kitchen was going to be set up at the competition. And we went at it every weekend for a whole year. The prize was $50,000. Each team member got $25,000. And I did that competition twice, and both times we won. And it was just the most phenomenal experience,
It's a really big deal.
Oh, it is.
It's a really big deal.
It is.
The level of competition at those competitions is just top tier.
You can't you can't even imagine. I mentioned the cake. Okay, most people have never even seen cakes like this. My cake with the first competition was a caramel. The cakes are called entremets. They're not called cakes. Okay, you might have. So my cake had it had like a cookie bottom, a layer of caramel, a thin layer of chocolate chip. There's a thin layer of caramel mousse. Okay, and there was another thin layer of cake, and then the next layer was a layer of chocolate mousse. And then the cake was glazed with a caramel glaze. It's called a mirror glaze. And then there was some decorations that went on to the cake. Uh, most people have never seen cake like it. The cake is like only like 2 inches tall. And in that 2 inches, there might be like 7 or 8 different layers in that 2 inches. Cakes to us is like this tall, and each layer is about this thick. That's a cake to us. For lack of a better word, I call it a cake, but it's called entremet. It's a French style cake. And while most people have never seen a cake like this, even the people that go to the competitions, they see it, but they don't even get to taste it. You make your cake, the judge cuts your cake in the cross section, takes your drawing that you submit, and compares the two and makes sure that the cake is the same as the drawing. And if not, then you lose points. These competitions are won by less than a point. Each time we won by the first time we won by half a point, and the second time we won by 3/4 of a point. So we did better the second time than we did the first time. But the thing about, I know I'm jumping, but the thing that was most important about this competition, in addition to the training, this training was so intense. It was literally, and I didn't know until I went to the competition, it was literally just like the competition, because is a row of kitchens. Everybody's kitchen is exactly the same. Okay? So the way we did ours, each of us had a rolling rack. Me and my partner, we had a rolling rack. A rolling rack is a rack about maybe this tall, about 6 feet tall, and you can put sheet pans on it. It can hold about 20 sheet pans. So for everything that you made had to be organized on that rack, ingredient-wise. So you would normally make the cake first. So the ingredients for the cake were pre-measured out: salt, sugar, cake flour, etc. And it was color-coded. And that was in the first rack. Okay. Then you had, then the next thing after the plain dessert. And, all the way down the line. The rack was within arm's reach. All I had to do was pull the top rack out, top tray off the rack, okay, pull my cake out. So the whole idea is, what do I do first? What do I do second, in order to be able to bring everything together, in time? So this is how the rack was set up. So because the cake had to be baked and it had to be cooled, okay, I made my cake first. So I would pull all of my cake ingredients off the pan, mix them, put my ingredients, okay. Then I would make the mousse, okay. And you go down the line. You're not running around the kitchen looking for stuff. You're just standing there, pulling it off the rack, put it back on the rack. Next thing you do, pull it off the rack. Everything is in arm's distance. The biggest value is not the $25,000 I won each time. The biggest value of that competition was that's where I learned how to work.
That's a perfect segue into our topic, because it's so much. You just gave so many gems in that, and it takes me back. So for the viewers and listeners, I used to be a professional pastry chef, but nothing like this man right here. I went to CIA Greystone. I did not graduate from there. I completed the program, but did not graduate. But I give my credit to East Carolina Chef Shelley, who taught me everything about pastry. She's an amazing pastry chef. and then Sadruddin here. But so I have so much respect for everything you did because it takes so much discipline and structure to do what you do. So you are known for respecting process and pastry. So what does process mean to you, and how does that show up in your kitchen every day?
Simplest way to put it is process is the road to excellence.
It's a t-shirt.
That's it. Without respecting the process that it takes to get to an end result, as opposed to doing things haphazard or however you feel like it, or, oh, I don't have the sugar, so now I got to run to the store and get sugar.
Mise en place.
Okay, mise en place. So you got different types of process. You got organizational and operational process. Okay, that's putting things in order, mise en place. You look at the recipe. What are you making? What ingredients do you need to make that? You make sure all of that is on the table. Okay, what order do you make? Do you use those ingredients? What order do you put it together? Okay, so for example, say you're making bread. Okay, do you take the flour and put the flour in the bowl, then put the water in the bowl, and then put the sugar in the bowl and the salt and the yeast, and then put your liquid? Or do you put the liquid in the bowl first, then the flour, okay, and dissolve your yeast on the side, and then your other ingredients? In what order do you mix things? It's an operational process, okay, and the result of that is going to give you a specific result, whether you use the right order of operations or not. Mixing, there's a process of mixing, okay? So you're making bread. Bread, uh, flour, wheat flour, has what's called gluten in it. Gluten is the wheat in the flour that gives it its structure. So the correct process for mixing is the first stage is called cleanup. Then you have development. What cleanup is you put your ingredients in the bowl and you mix it. And when the ingredients come together around the hook and away from the bowl, you've cleaned it up away from the bowl. Okay, so that stage is done. The next stage is development. What you're doing now is you're developing the gluten structure to support the weight of your product. Now, depending upon what you're making, you just can't use any kind of flour. If you're making a cake, you don't use bread flour. Okay, you use what's called cake flour, because cake flour means cakes need to be soft.
That's
okay, so they have less protein, less gluten in it, because they don't have to support a lot. But bread, you need flour with the highest percentage of protein that you can get. Usually, artisan bread, sourdough breads, croissants, stuff like that, they have like a 13% protein content as compared to a 7, 8, or 9 for all-purpose or cake flour. So when you're mixing that dough in the development stage, you don't look at it, recipe will tell you, oh, mix it for 7 minutes. No, you don't mix it for 7 minutes. You got to take the dough, stop the mixer, take the dough, and you purl the dough. Okay? Stretch the dough until it gets thin enough to see through. What you're experiencing is the development of the gluten structure is what allows that dough to have extensibility and to hold together as you pull it. Now, it depends on what kind of bread you're making. Okay? If you want to make croissant dough, that window that you're looking for is the least developed. If you're making sourdough or baguettes, you want that dough to be really, really developed. So when you pour out window, that dough should really stretch and you should really be able to see through that dough. So now getting back to the point about process. Okay, you got to know what your goal is. You got to know what ingredients you have to have. Okay, you have to follow the process for that particular activity, because if you don't, you might end up with a loaf of bread
That's edible.
that's edible, but the goal is excellence in everything that you do. And so it's following that process operationally, okay, as well as, scientifically, that is going to get you as close to excellence as you can. And from my competition experience, nothing else was satisfactory. You couldn't just go in there with just an average loaf of bread. The bread baker couldn't go in there with an average loaf of bread. He had to be a scientist about following those processes, or else he was going to lose points. I had to be a scientist, okay, about building that cake the right way, about building that centerpiece the right way. And that process is what is going to keep you on the road to excellence.
And with that in mind, so how do you resist the pressure of chasing trends and instead focus on timeless craftsmanship?
Well, trends are not for professionals.
I like that.
Classical foundation, fundamentals, and the process is going to get you the best product possible. Okay, because you're not in the kitchen because you're trying to make something, okay, to get it on Instagram. For example, I used to tell my students when I was teaching them how to make croissants, the curriculum only allowed 3 days to make croissants. So I would tell my student, it takes 3 days just to make the dough for croissants.
Right.
Then you got the dough. Now you got to shape your croissants. You got to let it proof. Then you got to bake it. Then after it's baked, then whatever, you're going to do to finish it, decorate it, whatever, that comes last. Okay? So when when you're on the road to just even learning how to do something the right way, trends are not going to help you. I used to tell my students when we make croissants, and they would get frustrated because 3 days was not enough time to teach them. I would tell them, I said, look, you got to make 1,000 croissants in your life before you can even think that you know how to make a croissant. You might learn how to make a crescent, which is what you get in Walmart, okay? But you're not going to be able to call that a croissant.
Absolutely not.
Okay?
Absolutely not.
So process is, if you're on the road to excellence, not perfection, the best you can hope for is excellence. And then once you land in that space, everything you strive to do should land you in that space. It's like you being an archer, and you're trying to hit the bullseye. You're not going to hit the bullseye every time, but, as long as you're around the bullseye, you're okay. And it's only respectful process.
So that's what you tell the younger chefs who want success quickly without, understanding the discipline that it takes to achieve excellence.
Absolutely. And, and as we say, the younger chefs, this is also, something that we have to learn about the art, culinary arts. There's no such thing as a younger chef. A chef is someone that is accomplished. Okay? When you first come into the kitchen, you're not a chef. You're not. Okay? You can't buy the title. Okay, because you're working in a hotel and, you got that position, so you're the chef. A chef is someone, you have to earn that title. Just like, you're not going to go into a hospital, and lay on the table with somebody, that wants to be a doctor. They've got to earn that title. Okay? And there's a big difference between being a chef and being a cook. Going back to the original, the beginning of the conversation, one of the things that Frenchie taught me early, in our relationship, Frenchie was a chef. He could work on the savory side of the kitchen and the pastry side of the kitchen. And what I learned very early in the game is, if you can't do both, you're not a chef. Okay. And I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm saying that out of respect for the craft. You got a lot of people that call themselves chefs, but they're not. They may be good, on the hot side, but if they can't make a biscuit like my grandmother, you got nothing coming. You're not a chef. You're not a chef. So just that title signifies someone that has learned the process, understands ingredients, the function of those ingredients, how those ingredients are manipulated, how they're combined to produce a product of excellence, all the way across the board on both sides of the kitchen. So young culinary students, this is what I tell students. You graduate from Johnson and Wales, even though you paid them $60,000, you're not going to leave here. You're not a chef when you leave here. You're not a chef. Okay, but they kind of like get that by the time they get through the program. They figure that part of it out. So, but that's just how that goes.
And now that we've discussed your craft and discipline and your career highlights, just some of them, let's talk about dessert specialist. And you're known for the Cronut. If you can tell people what that is and how did you first approach it and crafting it, and what did you learn in the process?
Well, a wife came to me one day. We had already started our business. I already quit my employment situation, and we were doing chocolates.
Amazing chocolates.
We were doing we had these fabulous little boxes of chocolates, and everywhere I went, I had a bag of chocolates with me, and I was just hustling chocolates, and that's how I started, my business. So anyway, my wife came up to me and showed me this article about this chef in Soho, the Village District in New York City. This chef named Dominic Ansel, he created the Cronut. Okay, so this is what a Cronut is. It's a croissant-based pastry. A croissant is made from a laminated dough.
And for the listeners, will you give a high-level overview of what a laminated dough is?
The laminated dough is what you do is you take, can I use this?
Yeah.
Okay, so you take a block of butter. This is a block of butter. And you take a piece of dough that's twice the size of the block of butter. This is the dough. This is the butter. Then you fold the dough, the other side of the dough on top of the butter. So what do you have here? You've got you got dough, you've got butter in the middle, and you got dough on top. Then you take your rolling pin and you roll it back out to the original size. Okay? So you roll it back out to this size, and now what you have is you've got the same thing. You've got dough, butter, dough. Then you fold it again and roll it back out again. And every time you fold it and roll it back out, you multiply the layers of dough, butter, dough. The butter is trapped inside these layers of dough. When you put it in the oven, the moisture in the dough from the heat, the steam from the butter evaporates, and it's trying to, get at, escape. So it pushes the dough up. So this is happening. If you got 30 layers of dough, butter, dough, this is happening on 30 layers simultaneously. And you have yeast in there as well. So the yeast is pushing it, and the steam from the butter is pushing it from each level. And that's how you get the flaky croissant.
A proper one.
The proper one. So that's how a croissant is made. So what this chef did was, he took the croissant dough, the croissant is rolled out, it's cut into a triangle, then it's rolled up, it's allowed to proof, and then you put it in the oven and it goes through the process that I just described to you. So what he did was, once he rolled it out, he took a circle cutter that's used for cutting donuts. Cronut. Cro stands for croissant, nut stands for donut. So he took the round cutter with the hole in it and cut out pieces of the laminated dough. The croissant is baked. A donut is deep fried. So after he cut those pieces of dough out, he put it in the deep fryer. And it rose in a different way from the heat from the deep fryer, hence the cronut. So that's what a cronut is. A lot of people think it's a cross between a donut, and a croissant. It's not a cross of, as we normally think of a cross, it's a cross of the processes to make each of those products. So my wife and I looked at it, and so we said, well, what are we going to do? So we agreed that her and my daughter would go to New York and buy some cronuts and bring them back. This was the only place in the world that you can get them. The chef only made 500 cronuts a day. He started selling them at 7 o'clock in the morning. You had to wait online 3 hours to get a chance, and you can only buy 2. You had to wait online for 3 hours. People were arriving there like 3 o'clock in the morning. This is the truth. Okay? People were online 3 o'clock in the morning to only get 2 cronuts. My wife bought 2 cronuts. My daughter bought 2 cronuts. They brought them back and to North Carolina, and we dissected them. And we worked. It took us like 6 months to figure it out. It took us about 6 months. We knew that we had to make a laminated dough. We had that part down. Okay? But we didn't understand the effect of the different cooking method was going to have on the product. We knew what happens when you put it in the oven, but then when you put this laminated dough and now it's a circle, okay, you put this laminated dough in that deep fryer, that's a whole different cooking method. It's shorter. The croissant's in the oven for 20 minutes, 12, 15 minutes. So in the deep fryer for like 2 minutes. So that heat is like flash hot, intense. So it's quick. And I remember times when we would have a batch of dough, and all of the layers would just come apart, and all we ended up with was a deep fryer full of layers. And so we look at it, we say, okay, what did we do wrong? So now, one of the other benefits of Johnson & Wales is I could call any one of those chefs. And if I had a problem, I could say, chef, this is what I got going on, and this is the problem that I'm having, and they would give me advice. So there was this one chef named Mario Biaggi. This dude he's serious. He's no joke. So he told me exactly what to do, but I didn't think to call him for like, 6 months, so I was learning, because we went through it, trial by fire. And then he told us what to do, and we finally figured it out. So that even then, if we had a order for 100 cronuts, we used to have to make 130 cronuts because they all didn't come out. We had to be so on the process of buying the proper ingredients. We needed a really strong flour to withstand the lamination process as well as the frying process. Okay? And it was just trial after trial. Then we got a little better, instead of 30 extra pieces to get 100, we got down to 20 extra pieces, we got to 10 extra pieces. Now, thank God, we need 100 cronuts, we just pull 100 cronuts, we got it, But as we got to that point by being true to the process, learning from our mistakes, which is the most important part of the game.
Right.
The most important part of the game. Everybody wants to do things right. If you don't make any mistakes, you're not going to learn them. And guess what? The mistakes, the lesson that you needed to learn from the mistakes, they're going to come at the wrong time. So, and that's how we approached it. So we valued the mistakes, and not only we had respect for the process, we realized that the process was more important than the end result. And that's how we were able to get to that point of being able to do them consistently.
I think that's beautiful. So I think with that, how did you balance being both a creator and business owner in such a demanding field? Because being a pastry chef, it takes a lot of time, patience, as we've discussed throughout this conversation. So how did you balance creator, business owner, and the demand?
Well, we were fortunate enough to have not only pastry training, hands-on, as well as academic pastry training. We also have business training. At this point, when I went, like I said, when I went to Johnson and Wales, I was able to achieve a master's degree, in business finance. So I understood, the fundamentals of business and the process that goes with that. Okay. And started, like I said, we started off selling the chocolates, and we developed a customer base, and uh, people really liked our product. But really, the most important thing was the reason why we went to New York to bring the Cronuts. We did not want, we had to be our own competition. We had no competition. From the first time we started business, there was no competition. People would ask me all the time, well, what about the competition? What competition? I'm my own competition.
Hello.
I'm not doing what I do by measuring myself next to someone else. My commitment is to do better today than I did yesterday. I'm my only competition. And that's how we were able to stay ahead of the race. Our primary objective and the key to, I think, the accomplishments that we've been able to enjoy was innovation. We were not satisfied with just doing the things that we learned at Johnson and Wales as students. My wife, saw that article about Dominic Ansel and the Cronuts. There were no Cronuts in Charlotte. Number one. Okay, so when you develop a product, or you're thinking about developing a product, you got to think about your market. You got to think about how available this product is in your marketplace. And the first thing we look for is products that don't exist in our marketplace. And we knew that this product would be highly successful because it was successful in New York City. Okay, and they had people waiting online for 3 hours in New York City. So we knew if we could figure it out, it would be successful. So you've got the business acumen is very important. It's very important. But business acumen is not going to help you if you have a mediocre product.
Mm.
Innovation is the key, and that's driven by not just respect for the process, but love for the process. I repeat, you have to love the process. When I'm making bread, I'm looking at that dough and I can literally see the gluten in the dough with my mind's eye that I'm developing with the mixer. I'm not just mixing ho, 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 ho. No, I know that gluten is being developed. And I can tell you when the dough is in the oven, what stage of the degree of doneness that bread is based on all of the steps as the processes were lined up. Okay, and I can visualize that. I can take a thermometer, put it in the bread. Yeast dies at 140 degrees. Okay, the starch starts to gelatinize and the crumb starts to form around 60 or 70 degrees. Okay, so these are all things that take place in the oven based on how you put things together. Okay, so I can stick the thermometer in the baguette and tell you which stage, of doneness, what stage of development, that baguette is. When I stick that thermometer in the oven and that baguette is 200 degrees, it's done. That's it. I don't have to play around with it because that is the result of loving the process and respecting the process and valuing the individual steps in the process more than the end result. I don't have to worry about it because I know if I followed all of those steps, when it's 200 degrees, that's it. There's nothing else I can do. I did my best. And that's what I got. I just got to do better next time.
Okay, so I have one question I didn't necessarily prep you with, but I know, I might know personally, that some of your creations, you made them fully plant-based. So what was the impetus of that, and how has that evolved or expanded your business?
Well, I have these two amazing friends. Uh, Damon and Innie, who were blessed to fall in love and get married and have a wedding. So I was asked to do do their wedding cake and to do a dessert buffet, vegan cake, a vegan dessert buffet. I had never done any vegan desserts before in my life, but I thought about it. I talked to my wife about it. I said, "Look, it's just cooking methods and ingredients. That's all it is." And so we started doing research, and we came to realize that it really wasn't complicated at all.
Ooh, say it one more time.
We came to realize that it really wasn't complicated at all. And with our background in pastry, we were able to make the vegan desserts look the same way our normal desserts look. We didn't lose that part of our skill. Okay, we just had to look at each ingredient in a recipe. Okay, and then we had to say, okay, what is the function of this ingredient? What's the function of that ingredient? What is the function of this ingredient? What does this ingredient do in the cake? And then we had to identify which ingredients were vegan and which ingredients were not. Those ingredients that were not vegan, we had to look and find a replacement ingredient. That's simple, an easy one, milk. Yeah. Ganache is something that we use to cover cakes, used for fillings. Ganache is usually dairy milk and chocolate. Okay, you chop the chocolate up, you take your milk, you heat your milk up, you pour your milk over your chocolate, you emulsify it, stir real good, emulsify it. Then when it gets to the right temperature, you pour it over your cake, and it just gives you this amazing, amazing coating for your cake. But we knew that we couldn't use cow's milk. So we tried that. We said, okay, what are the options? We have almond milk. We have there's the number of different milks. So we tried all of the milks, and every single one of them worked. It was so easy. It was so easy. So, and then, same thing. Bread is really easy. Bread is really easy. There's not, unless you're doing like a rich dough like croissants. Okay, you don't really have many ingredients in that, that are plant-based, so that's really easy. But especially today, so much work has been done. Food scientists and old school bakers that have made the commitment to, to bring vegan desserts, to the forefront and put it on the plate for our enjoyment. Much like India has done, they've made it easy. It's just a matter of identifying your ingredients and saying, okay, what is the replacement for that ingredient? And there's vegan butter, there's vegan milk. Okay, I mean, it is so easy today, to eat vegan. One of my goals, and Annie and I have talked about this often. One of my goals is to create desserts that both vegans and non-vegans can eat, and it can be done. It could be done. I did an event one time, and I had a vegan carrot cake. And so a customer came up.
So good.
Customer came up and, well, you know what? Vegans food doesn't really, dessert don't really taste that good. I said, look, if you don't like this, you don't have to pay for it. So she looked at me like she didn't believe me. So we gave her the carrot cake. She loved it. She said that was the best carrot cake that she ever had. Vegan desserts can be done. So what it has done for our business? Oh, my soul, vegan bakery downtown. We did desserts for them for 2 years.
Yep.
We did desserts for them for 2 years, and we made the best desserts they've ever had.
Absolutely.
So it can be done. The vegan dessert opportunity that we got from doing Demond and Innie's wedding is just increased our market base exponentially. So now we have a whole nother customer base that we can approach, that we can attract, to improve our bottom line. We've just completely expanded our customer base doing vegan desserts.
And they taste just as good. They can't tell a difference, and they look just as beautiful, and it's just amazing. Like, there's nothing lost. If anything is gained, your chocolates, the breads, the cakes, everything. It's incredible. It's exceptional. Exceptional artistry, you know. So
Thank
pretty
you.
cool. Yes.
I'd like to say one more thing if I can. When I went from University of Alaska to Johnson & Wales in Providence, they had a student competition team. And so I was on the student competition team, and I had a coach that was a national champion. She was highly renowned. So she was the coach. And she said, okay, so then I want you to remember this as you start your career here, and don't forget it. At Johnson & Wales, they teach chocolates. They teach hotel and restaurant desserts. They teach artisan breads. They teach, everything. Cakes, wedding cakes. They teach classical pastries, everything. These are all separate classes. And she told me, don't come here and just do sugar or chocolate because we know that's what you love. I want you to come here and learn and master every piece of the curriculum. Pick one thing that you will be known for and master everything in the curriculum. And that's how I spent my time in culinary school. That's how it was just important for me to be as good in hotel and restaurant desserts, as it was in sugar or chocolates. And because of that, because of my approach, and because of that attitude combined with my approach, and the thing that was consistent throughout all of those classes is love for the process. The process was the same. It was always, without the process, you won't get to that place of excellence that you have to strive for to be a chef. And that's a piece of advice that I carry with me everywhere I go, every time I step into the kitchen.
Okay, so given all we've discussed about process and discipline and structure, what do you want your customers to feel when they consume your pastries and desserts?
I want them, first of all, I want them to feel special. I want them to say to themselves, someone took a lot of time, love, care, and experience to make this product, and I can taste it.
And you can definitely taste it.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
How do you view dessert as part of cultural identity and storytelling?
Well, as we started off the beginning of the segment, with me and my cousin standing there at the kitchen table, waiting for my grandmother to finish with the chocolate bowl. Desserts, it's a happy food, and it makes people smile, it makes people happy. But every culture has its own cuisine. Okay, so with that, each of those cultures and each of those cuisines, when brought together, there's stories that come with it. It doesn't just happen, happenstance. Chocolate, for example. Oh, we love our chocolate, but do we know that chocolate used to be a form of money? During the ancient Aztecs time, okay, chocolate was a form of currency. Okay, they drank their chocolate versus how we consume our chocolate. So culturally, all over the world, their products and ingredients evolved, and as different cultures picked up the experience of other cultures, okay, the story continues. During slavery, when the colonialists came to Africa, and they was stealing slaves. They were stealing human beings to bring them to slavery. The slaves, the female slaves, they would they would hide ingredients in their corn rolls. They would hide the ingredients in the corn rolls and bring them to America, and that became the basis for a lot of the Southern cuisine. So every culture has their own story about their food, about their cuisine, and when you bring those cultural experiences together and they're passed down from generation to generation, the stories and the historical journey that people went through and continue to go through with food, is unlimited.
And with that, what legacy do you hope to leave in the world of pastry and the community you serve?
I love this question. I just hope that my legacy is that I remain thankful to Almighty God for giving me a craft, for making it possible for me to earn a living and to feed my family with my hands. And that every time I make something, I'm reminded of where this gift came from. That's all I want out of this in terms of a legacy. To know that everything that we have, and to be constantly reminded that everything we have comes from God.
There's so much we could talk for another 3 hours easily. I'm so grateful for this. So before we move to our cooking segment, Herbal Spotlight, tell the people how they can reach you and get some of your amazing cuisine.
Well, I have an Instagram page, and the name of the page is Sugar Man. That's two R's in sugar and two N's in man. So you can go to our page and look at what we have, okay, and just contact us through our page. And my number is 704-614-5911. We don't keep an inventory. You order, try to give us 2 or 3 days if possible, and we make the product fresh just for you.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Um, okay. Well, thank you so much for doing this and being here today. I'm so grateful. We're going to transition to our cooking segment now.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for doing this.
Okay, so now we're in our segment with my dear friend here. And I have to say, though I went to pastry school and have operated as a pastry chef, it's very intimidating to do a dessert in front of this man right here.
Come on.
To the point where I was gonna punk out and do a savory dish, and I was gonna do a culinary dish, and I said, "You know what? I'm a G.
There you
Okay,
go.
I
There
got
you
this.
go.
I got this." Okay, so because I make home dishes, we're making this home friendly. So we're not gonna do like a traditional what we would do in culinary school, as all the stuff that he explained, because most people are not gonna do that when they go home. All right. So what we're gonna do today is a salted chocolate tart. Or excuse me. What we're gonna do today is a caramel tart with salted chocolate. That's what we're gonna do. So it's a raw dish. It's very indulgent. So since it's gonna be showing around the holiday times, it's something you can make for the holidays. So it's a dessert that's high in fiber, but it's also high in calories. So it's very indulgent. This one dish will make about 14 servings, about 5 to 6 grams of fiber per slice. So that's very high for a dessert. So what we're gonna start off by doing, I have this, it's really a brownie pan, but you can also use a springform pan, and we're going to create the base for it. So what we're gonna start by doing is take our cashews, put it in the food processor, and I'm gonna blitz it until it looks like a little bit like sand. All right. So that kind of coarse texture is kind of what we're looking for. We don't want it to be completely fine. I'm going to add in some pitted dates. You can find the recipe on my website, thenaijagoddess.com. Click on recipes. You can search by raw or dessert or just type in salted caramel tart. And I'm adding in some virgin coconut oil. Now, I don't usually do too much oil, but this, like I said, this is an indulgent dish. And we're going to pulse this until this comes together so we can press it into our pan. It may require a couple tablespoons of water, but I'm going to get it going first.
This is the whole dough. This is what the base on it.
It's the base.
The base, okay.
And I see how it's starting to come together. So if I hold it, it'll stay together.
It's starting. You can see where it's starting to come together now.
Yep. Right, and like 1 tablespoon of water. Excuse me. There we go.
It's coming now.
There we go. Perfect. All right. So we've got our base. So here's our pan. And then my trusty sous chef here will help press it into the pan using some parchment paper.
So this stays in, or you just depress?
Nope, we're gonna put it right on that.
Right on that?
Yep.
So it's going to be this size, or you want it to be the size of the pan?
No, you're just gonna use the parchment paper so your hands don't get sticky.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Do you ever think about using water to press it with your hands so your hands don't get sticky?
Yes, I do.
You mind if I did it like that?
I don't mind.
Then that might be a little bit more efficient.
Okay. So while chef is doing that, I'm going to start with the caramel filling, caramel in quotes. So all right, so we're gonna start. I have some pitted medjool dates again, and I have to buy them whole and then pit them myself because when you buy them pitted, they tend to be very hard. So I don't like that. I'm adding in some nut butter, and here I have almond butter. Okay. Then we have our coconut oil again. And then we're going to add in some more water. Pardon me. And I'll get that going when we start blending. And then I'm going to add in a little bit of vanilla extract. This is technically vanilla bean paste. You can also use vanilla powder, which I also like, or you can omit it altogether. And this is going to blitz for about 5 minutes.
Hello?
Yes, to make it a quote unquote caramel light texture.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to take a while. So we'll be right back with that. Okay, so it's been about 5 minutes. And look at this beauty right here.
Oh, look how smooth it is.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
All this just from dates, y'all. You know, your date caramel. So I'm going to take, it smells amazing, right?
Yes, it does.
Take this blade out. And we're going to just put this on top of our base.
And this comes out too?
Oh yeah, we're gonna put all this in there. Yeah. Now I'm gonna get him to taste this caramel and tell me what his thoughts are. It's whole food, plant-based caramel.
Well, the tasting process has already started. Aroma is 80% of flavor.
Hello.
It smells wonderful.
So use a bigger spoon, bigger thing.
Mhm.
It's coming, but slowly. Okay, let's get you.
Can you sit this with it?
Yes. Tell us your thoughts on this.
The consistency is nice. You wouldn't think that this is dates.
You would not think.
Oh, it smells so good. How much sugar does it have?
You talking the dates?
Yeah, in the filling.
So I don't know just by itself. I have it for the whole recipe.
I mean, in terms of what you put into it.
Yeah, so it's like a cup of dates. It's about 15 dates, and then the almond butter to give it that texture.
You didn't add any sugar.
No, sir. It was just the dates, the almond butter, and coconut oil. That's it.
Wow.
Why are you asking?
Well, just to get an understanding about what I'm tasting. I'll definitely taste the coconut.
Yes.
The texture of it is definitely nice. It's nice and smooth. Just melts on your tongue.
Is it sweet enough?
Well, that's the key. It's perfectly sweet. It's not cloyingly sweet. It's not overly sweet, which allows you to taste the other components of it.
Yes.
The sugar's not overpowering it.
Nor is it supposed to. Yep.
But that's what happens, when sugar is your main ingredient.
Right. So, from my food belief system, I don't use refined sugars in cooking. Everything to be whole food, plant based, all single ingredients coming together, just real food mixed creatively that can be done for any home cook. That's kind of the premise of what I do, which is different from culinary school. They're from working in restaurants and things, totally different mindset.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's perfect.
Is that something?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's nice.
So we're gonna let that sit.
How long does it? Do you put it in the refrigerator or just sit at room temperature?
When we finish everything, we're gonna put it in the refrigerator. But for us to expedite, we're gonna put it in the freezer, like 15 minutes, just so that the chocolate will. That we're gonna do next, and then we'll slice it and you'll taste it and you'll tell me what you think. And if you love it, you can take it home.
Wow.
Okay, so if I was just doing this regularly, or if you're doing this at home, while we were waiting for the caramel to come together, we would have gone ahead and melted the chocolate at the same time. But I'm doing it separate so I can explain a couple things to you, so that transitions us to our herbal spotlight of today, which is cacao. Okay, cacao is one of the most nutrient dense plants on the planet. It has the highest, like really high sources of magnesium and iron, and a natural source of caffeine called theobromine. And it doesn't cause a crash or jitters or anything like that. It's great for cardiovascular support, metabolic health, cognitive function. That's how it's been used in the nervous system. And this is him using his pastry skills to even everything out beautifully over here. Helps with nervous system regulation and nutrient synergy because of the fat soluble compounds that are in there. It helps to help you absorb more of your minerals for your fat soluble compounds. So that's what cacao is. Just it does so many different things. Now, cacao is different from cocoa because cocoa is roasted. It's been heated. Cacao is raw, so that's no sugar added. It's a bitter, and it's just really really good for you. So today we're going to use cacao, and I use two different types because the one I really wanted was sold out. So I've got these chocolate bars. One is 85% cacao, and one is 70% cacao. And so I'm just going to mix those two together. Now, we're going to temper the chocolate. We're going to melt the chocolate. We're going to make sure it's tempered. If you're not sure what tempering chocolate is, and he can add on. But when you know chocolate is tempered, it should have a nice, beautiful shine. And when you go to break it, it should snap. You should hear a snap. And it should stay solid at room temperature. So if you pick up chocolate that's not properly tempered, when you pick up at room temperature, it melts on your hands. It feels greasy. It can look streaky or cloudy. That is untempered chocolate. That's low quality chocolate in most cases. So that's what we are wanting to avoid.
In addition to that, you'll find commercially that chocolate has two fats in it. Cocoa butter, which is the natural fat in chocolate. But commercially what they do is they take out the cocoa butter and they put hydrogenated fat into it.
Big thumbs down.
Okay, so that's what you find in your Hershey's bars. You'll find hydrogenated fat as opposed to cocoa butter. So cocoa butter is what is the ingredient in the chocolate that you're tempering. And if the cocoa butter is not tempered, the chocolate will not set hard. But if you have hydrogenated fat, the chocolate will reset. Okay? But the damage that you're doing to your heart over time and your veins over time, it's not worth it. So pure premium chocolate has cocoa butter. When I was a kid, I remembered the Williams family always had cocoa butter in the medicine cabinet. So whenever they had children, whenever any children were born in the family, cocoa butter was used, for the stretch marks. Pharmaceutical companies take the cocoa butter out and use them in skincare products, et cetera, and they replace it with hydrogenated fat. So if you want good chocolate, read your ingredients and make sure it's got cocoa butter. If you're not worried about your heart, you can use the hydrogenated fat.
Well, if you are tuned into this show, you obviously care about your health and natural living. So we definitely care about the quality of ingredients is always supreme here. So that's super, super important. So think of like tempering like an ice cube. The ice cube melts really fast and you just throw it in the freezer. Those ice cubes come out cloudy and they're not really pretty. But if it's frozen properly, you get those beautiful clear ice cubes. So that's kind of akin to tempering chocolate.
Exactly.
All right, so we're going to show you how to actually just melt the chocolate properly without using the microwave, because we don't want to do that. You just get a pot of water that's at a very gentle simmer, barely even a simmer, and you put a tight fitting bowl over it. And what we're going to do is add in most of our chocolate to the bowl. Actually, I should chop this up first. It's going to take longer. I know I was forgetting something. Where's my chef knife? Did I bring my chef knife?
Want to chop it up?
Yeah, I do. Well, it's already starting to melt now. It's already hot. It's okay. And I'm going to also add in our coconut oil.
So the coconut oil is being added for more flavor?
It's add for more flavor, and also because it's a raw dessert, this will help it set.
In addition to the cocoa butter.
In addition to the cocoa butter. It's like a double whammy. And we just gently stir this, and then once all of this is melted, we'll add in our reserve chocolate. Add in some more. This is going pretty fast. And this is how you just melt chocolate. It's not difficult. And I like using the unrefined coconut oil because it adds a natural sweetness and it has a very distinct flavor. But I know some people do not like the taste of coconut. So you can use a refined coconut oil that does not have the coconut flavor if that's something you are sensitive to.
Coconuts has a lovely taste.
It's one of my favorite fruits, like my whole life.
So
Not a fruit, but
that liquid is, because it seems like the chocolate is melting slow. So that liquid is from the coconut oil?
yes, coconut oil.
Like it makes it more fluid too.
It makes it more fluid, and it'll set up a lot quicker when we put it in the freezer with the coconut oil added. It's like a big difference actually. But see, it's not taking that long.
No.
So once it's all gets melted down, we're going to seed the chocolate. And this is like a This is an at-home version of tempering chocolate if you're gonna temper it. It's not necessary for this kind of at-home dessert, but it's just if you're gonna do it, I just try to do it the best way you can. Excellence.
No thermometer. You're not using the thermometer at all.
So, um, if I was doing this where I'm selling it, absolutely. I always use a thermometer and a scale for everything.
Mhm.
But, from teaching home cooks, they don't I try to show them a way where they can just do it.
Mhm.
Because I started off doing all the technical stuff, and they're like, "Any, let's back it off a little bit. That's too much." I said, "Oh." They're like, "We're not gonna do all that at home." I said, "Okay, message received. Okay, find other ways." Alright, so now that is melted. I'm gonna turn off the heat and put in our last pieces of chocolate.
Go ahead. Just let me just check something out here.
Absolutely. What are your thoughts, chef?
Well, what I was doing was checking the temperature of it. Okay, so I would estimate that that's about probably close to 90 degrees. Y- your body temperature is normally like 98.6. Okay, so if you take something and you put it on your lip and it's cool to your lip, that means it's not over your body temperature. If it's hot to your lip, that means it's over your body temperature. The reason, and the reason why that's important is because the cocoa butter crystals is what you have to manipulate to temper the chocolate properly. So she's melted the cocoa butter crystals, okay, but she hasn't melted them too hot. So now you mentioned seeding. The chocolate that you put in after you melted it is going to give the melted mixture new seeds to help the chocolate set. So the temperature of the temperature that you take the chocolate to is really important. You don't want to overheat it because if you overheat it, even especially after you put the new seed in, it'll it'll set up in the freezer, okay, but it may or may not stay that way at room temperature. It'll get hard because it's frozen, but the temperature of it is good.
I still remember a few things. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna wipe the bottom of this bowl because when I pour the chocolate over the tart, if water gets into it, it could seize the chocolate. And we just work really hard to melt it low and slow. I don't need any loose stragglies like that. And we're just gonna pour our chocolate over. It's looking pretty perfect. And then, chef, if you don't mind, putting it around so it'll go around evenly.
Yeah, that's good enough.
Oh,
And that is it. So now we're going to pop this in the freezer for about 15-20 minutes and come back to taste test. And in the interim, we're going to do some rapid fire questions. So we'll be right back. All right. So while that is in the freezer, before we have our final taste test, we're going to ask him some questions to get to know him a little bit better. So we have some of our rapid fire questions. So first question, sweet or savory breakfast? This is for you personally.
sweet or savory? Savory.
So what do you have for your savory breakfast typically?
Shrimp and grits is nice.
Shrimp and
Shrimp and grits is nice.
Okay.
Just toasting a nice scrambled egg with some cheese is nice.
Okay. Okay. Second, cronut or croissant?
I'll take the croissant.
Really?
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
shocked.
I'll take the croissant because the croissant is the criterion of your skill level. When you look at a pastry chef, you check their croissant out.
100%.
You don't check out their Cronut.
Yeah.
You check their croissant out. That tells you the skill level.
That is very true.
It's
And
fundamental. It's a criterion.
yeah, I would be scared to make one for I made I made thousands of croissants because my favorite thing. That's the one thing I wanted to master was how to do that. Yeah, so
That's what it takes.
it's what it takes. You have to make thousands of them
Yeah, you do.
by hand. Yeah. Okay, chocolate or vanilla?
Wow. Chocolate.
Chocolate. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm more of a vanilla person.
Yeah. Vanilla's good. Vanilla, and vanilla is a little, it's very versatile as well as chocolate. But if I'm gonna, I have no problem with just taking pieces of chocolate and just eating them. I love chocolate.
I like how vanilla is a interesting the compounds. It has a lot of depth of flavor. You have real vanilla bars and stuff. And that could be sweet or savory, and I
Exactly.
feel like it's a little more versatile.
Without a doubt, without a doubt. It's versatile in its own way. But you can't do a centerpiece out of vanilla.
True.
You can do a chocolate centerpiece, and then after all the food is gone, you can eat the centerpiece.
That's true. That's very true. Okay. Favorite dessert to eat and not bake?
To eat and not bake.
So one that you don't prepare, but one that you like to consume.
Oh, one that I don't prepare,
Uh-huh.
but I like to consume. Okay, banana pudding.
Okay. Okay. One pastry every person should master.
One pastry every person should master. I would say that would have to be chocolate cake.
Oh, it's not expecting you to say that. So everybody should have a good chocolate cake recipe in their back pocket.
Oh, absolutely.
Why do you think so?
Well, because it's classic. It's just classic. And there's so much you can do with a chocolate cake. And you can keep it basic and fundamental and come out with a phenomenal product. And you can really, stretch it out and get creative with it. And take it to higher and higher levels.
Yeah.
Chocolate cake is strong. Plus, it reminds me of my grandmother.
Okay. Okay. One tool you cannot live without in your kitchen.
One tool I can't live without in my kitchen: a knife.
That's what I say every week. The chef knife.
Gotta have the chef knife.
It's got to have it.
And it's a thermometer. And a thermometer. Knife and a thermometer.
Yeah. That's true, especially for baking. Well, I would say in the baking world for me, it would be not only the thermometer, but a scale. Like you can't just use a cup of this color. You have to weigh your ingredients.
True.
Yeah.
True. Absolutely.
Okay. Classical French pastry or modern innovation?
Modern innovation has to be based on classical French technique. So I'm going to go with the fundamentals.
Fundamentals. I like that. Okay. One chef who inspires you.
One chef who inspires me. Wow. I've been blessed to know so many.
Right.
So to pick one would almost be disrespectful.
Okay. Well, who do you admire?
I admire, there's a chef at Johnson Wells named Chef Armstrong. This guy was kind of like a hippie dude, okay?
Okay.
He's wild. He's wild.
He's wild.
But he's an artist.
Okay.
To the bone, he's an artist. Yeah. He'll take that classical foundation, that classical technique, and he'll twist it and turn it and do some things to it that'll make you want to dance. He's amazing.
Okay.
He's amazing.
I'm not familiar with him. Let's check him out.
But Chef Jean-Luc Duran is amazing. And Chef Cyril Hitz. Chef Cyril Hitz is an innovator par excellence. But those are just a few chefs that I know. There's so many.
So many. It's
So many.
okay. Coffee or tea with your dessert?
Coffee.
Coffee. Okay. And if you could serve dessert to anyone in history, who would it be?
My grandmother. Yep. Because when I always think about, the table and the bowl of chocolate. And now here I am, okay? So to be able to say, here, mama, try this, that was just warm my heart.
I loved it. Any last words for our listeners and viewers?
If you're going to do one thing as you approach your experience with pastry, love it. Love the process and try to understand why things happen. Don't worry about the end result. Concern yourself with the process. Try to learn as much about the process, try to visualize the process, try to understand what's happening on the journey to that final product. And if you could do that, your final product, I guarantee you will be 10 times better.
I love it. Okay, guys, we'll be right back with the final taste test. Okay. All right, welcome back, guys. So we have our tasting segment. It's not fully set yet, but just from time reasons, we're gonna go ahead and have him taste it and give his honest culinary opinion on it as a master pastry chef.
For the record, I'm not a master pastry chef.
Yes, he is.
Okay, in the professional ladder, the master pastry chef is at the top of the ladder, and the pastry chef is a couple of rungs down. So I'll accept I accept the title of pastry chef, and desire and hope and pray, God willing, that one day I can reach the master level.
Humility at its finest.
I think you need a little bit more crunch on the bottom. But that coconut is just so nice. It's coming in now. That coconut gives you another level of flavor. So I would make this a little bit thicker,
The base.
the base of it, and make it a little bit thicker so that that coconut, has a chance to shine through. But that date filling, very good. Chocolate is nice and final, well tempered. Yeah, this is nice.
So a thicker base.
A thicker base. A thicker base. The base should be at least as thick as the filling, so the flavor is balanced. The day filling just kind of overpowers the base, and the chocolate, especially because it's dark chocolate, it's going to claim its own territory anyway. So you just need to, I think, strengthen that base out because it's going to give you more of texture and it's going to give you more of that coconut flavor. Yeah, but this is nice. And it's amazing, what the.
5 ingredients.
Oh, easy. Oh, very nice.
So I agree with everything he just said. From a nutrition perspective, because it's calorie rich and indulgent, and it's made with nuts and oil, it's very high in fat. So I scaled it back so that when someone has a slice, it's not too much, like a full 1,000 calories in one sliver. But if I didn't care about that, I totally agree. But this is for the holidays and you choose to be indulgent, you can definitely do that. We can actually stack it or make it in a smaller pan, stack it up too.
Yeah, it's good. That date is very impressive. I mean, the flavor that date carries, the texture and the smoothness of the date. It would be perfect because you got the firmness of and the crunch of the chocolate. If you get some more crunch on the bottom of it, to envelope that filling. Oh, it's nice.
I can't wait to see what he creates
Good
with this
piece.
day's place. You can take it.
I still want to taste this. Have a little small little piece. Yeah, we'll take it and put it in the freezer. Get it out of there and play with it. This is very nice.
Yeah, remember, for the viewers watching and listening, we only put it in the freezer for like 10 minutes, so it needed more time to actually set and firm up. But due to time restrictions, we had to go ahead and abort early.
It's good. Good job. Good job. Very good.
Now, at the end, when it actually finished setting up, I was going to put some raspberries on there with a little drizzle of balsamic glaze. And then for our actual salted caramel or salted chocolate to put some flaked smoked salt on top and puts it all together. Think I should? Okay. Well, I'll just do that.
You want to dress the whole thing, or you want to take a piece off and
How you wish I to do it? Just a piece?
take a piece off and just dress it
Well, let's do it.
and taste it?
Let's do it. Let's do it the full Monty, as they say. Just a pinch. That smoked salt. I can put like a raspberry or two on there. Or 2 bites. And the tiniest little drizzle of salmon glaze. Okay. So now he's going to taste it.
Yeah.
The full Monty.
Here we go.
So we got tart, sweet, salty, bitter, and umami. We've got all the bases covered. Everything but sour.
World of difference.
So what are your thoughts now, tasting it as it's intended to be served?
Well, just as I was bringing it up, I could smell the balsamic vinegar.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a nice dimension to it.
I think that helps with the bitterness of the chocolate and enhances it.
Or it broadens the spectrum of flavor.
Absolutely.
And the raspberry gives it a little bit of tartness, maybe a little bit more salt, but look how many different levels of flavor. It's like, it's so nice. With dates.
With dates. This is really just, 5 ingredients. And if you add the salt and the raspberry, so you're talking about 8 ingredients total, and that's more of a garnish, but the core base of it is 5 ingredients of real food, whole food, single ingredient foods.
I think the vinegar is a surprise.
I love pairing that combination. It was like one of my go-tos when I used to be in the professional field. That was always my little signature. I like the way they taste, and especially because it took me years to start to like the taste of dark chocolate. I was always a white chocolate or milk chocolate person. I did not appreciate the depth of flavor of real dark chocolate, but that's because I was eating the wrong kind, like the kind from Africa and Ghana or Uganda. That type of chocolate is so delicious now that I absolutely love it now. But
that's wonderful.
Yeah, I got a wonderful.
That's wonderful. That's really nice. There's so much with that.
And I can't wait to see what he's going to do with it. And when he does,
I'm thinking now.
About it.
I'm thinking about it now.
What comes to your mind, Chef?
Well, I would maybe put some, so the nuts in the base was cashews.
Yes.
I ground up some cashews and maybe put them in the filling to firm it up a little bit.
Okay.
And give it a little bit more texture. And in the chocolate, I would maybe do the same thing, but really fine, and put some of that in the chocolate. And then when you dip the dessert in the chocolate, you're going to get pieces of chocolate. Visually, you'll see it. It won't be just flat chocolate. You'll see little pieces of it. So, oh, what is that? But then when you taste it, you get, more crunch. And I think it'll help hold it together as well. And a little bit more salt.
More salt?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the first thing I'm going to try. And I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna try to use it as a, as a filling or as a layer for a cake.
When you do, please let me taste.
I will. Yeah, I'm telling you, I look at dates. I look at date recipes, vegan. When I'm looking at vegan recipes, I see date recipes all the time. I gotta try that. It's just something that I know I want to get to, but I just haven't yet. So thank you for bringing me here. Because I'm in it now. Exciting, very good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for your honest feedback and for tasting and for being here today. It's truly an honor. I'm so my husband will tell you how excited and nervous I've been.
Nervous?
Yes, to do a dessert for him. Like, come on.
Well,
But
this is a treat.
from you. So I'm over the moon.
Yeah, me too. Me too. This was fun. This was great. Thank you very much.
Well, guys, I will link his information below so you can try some of his amazing creations. And this recipe is also on my website, thenaijagoddess.com. I'll have that link for you as well. And until next time, make sure you subscribe, like, and follow, and share this episode with someone you think will find it valuable. And until next time, heal naturally, live vibrantly.